What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing with NDub podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today, for episode 151, got a special treat for those that are still trying to get through what it's like to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, maybe a thought leader, and have the entrepreneurial grit. I got my man Kent Lewis here that's going to drop diamonds from his 25 years of entrepreneurial experience. What's up, Kent? Welcome to the show.
How's it going? Always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad for you to be here to drop these diamonds. I think especially, my bad, y'all. Let me turn on my do not disturb because I just saw something that came in. Got to turn that off. Hopefully you didn't hear that. But for those that are going through some stuff right now in this new economy, or no matter when you're listening to it, I think it's important to use the wisdom of others so you don't have to make these same mistakes. And so let me not forget, y'all, for my first time listeners, I want to say thank you for joining the show. For my worldwide listeners that are continuously rocking with me, that are sharing, commenting, posting, I want to say thank you for keeping me one of your top faves. So Ken, for the listeners out there that are entrepreneurial or want to be around entrepreneurs and have that mindset, first, please introduce yourself, who you are and what you do, and then let's get into this topic.
So the name is Kent Lewis. I am currently CMO at Dexia right here. And day job is at Dexia, DEKSIA.com. You can also find me on the Twitter at Kent J. Lewis and on LinkedIn at just Kent Lewis and Dexia, or Kent Lewis and Anvil, my former agency. And I've been a digital marketer since 96, an entrepreneur since 99, and I'm happy to share some lessons today.
Awesome. And you got the top, you say there's 15 of them. And if you find the article that you already have, or maybe you already have it, please feel free to send it to me so I can put it in the show notes. But you're only going to drop 5. So you're getting a third of it, y'all. But what are those 5, Ken? What are those 5?
So I picked the top 5 that I thought are most relevant to our listeners today. And the first one is the power of storytelling. Just a reminder to entrepreneurs and marketers alike that facts may tell, but stories sell. I think whether you, regardless of how you feel about, let's say, Donald J. Trump, he is a storyteller. He's also a chronic liar. But be that as it may, he tells stories, and those stories are memorable. As an entrepreneur, I've found far greater success in telling stories instead of sharing facts. If you have facts to share, like the speeds and feeds, the quality of your product, weave it into a story. Tell a story to make it memorable, bottom line. I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on storytelling, because I think you're an excellent storyteller as well. But I think it's just a good reminder, particularly for entrepreneurs that are more technically oriented, that are passionate about their product, but they're not marketers inherently. I think there might be some words of wisdom. It's a reminder for those type of mindsets that aren't used to coming up with good stories.
So yes, and thank you for the compliment. I think the key thing, and I love how you started it with the marketing-led lens tip, but I will say that one of the biggest things for a story to be effective and impactful, people want to know what's in it for them, and that's how you hook them, not in a bad way, but that's how bonds of connections are created. So it's not just to sell, and you say, well, that's a sneaky way of doing it, but folks want to know, how does this benefit them? And so if they hear a story, if you can put in a story, you're going to have a much higher propensity to get that traction you need to either convert or sell, whatever the case may be. But please don't underestimate what Kent just talked about. That story is so important, because you can always reference that, and that could be the only thing that they remember from your interaction.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks for elaborating. Again, storytelling is job one. There's probably one of the best storytelling brands out there would be Apple.
Mm,
Also, Nike, they do not talk about their product specs, either brand, and they do an exceptional job of creating a number one marketplace and high market valuation and sell a lot of products through the art of storytelling. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, lesson number two from my years of experience is more recently, I've always done this, but I only recently articulated an article is embrace the first class mindset. And what I mean by that is it's one thing to say create first class experiences. And the immediate answer would be, well, my quick service restaurant or my budget brand doesn't have that brand feel. It's not the Ritz, it's a motel.
mm,
My automotive brand isn't luxury, it's entry level. Or whatever the excuse may be, my point is mindset. So hire people with a first class mindset, inherently native, that service mindset, the idea to take care of others, train and develop and hone that craft and that talent, build it into your mission, vision, values, build it into your training and development, into your compensation and rewards. Reward people for going above and beyond to delight customers.
mm,
It is so much cheaper, more affordable to invest in your employees to create that first class experience than to build an expensive building. Because a first class mindset is to simply exceed expectations, in my definition. So you can do that through service, not just through how cool a building is or how cool your product packaging is. That's one way to do it. But the more affordable way, I believe, if done correctly, is to build a first class mindset with your employees, with your team, set that expectation and beat it. So, for instance, I was at a luxury car dealership yesterday doing a test drive. And what I'm starting to do is take pictures of places that should have a first class experience but fall short. So then their bathroom, the mirror is coming delaminated, so it looks like it's kind of rotted. And then there's broken tiles on the floor by the urinal. This is not a first class experience. This is a third world experience. So
mm.
that creates dissonance with me as the products outside in the showroom were gorgeous, $50 to $120,000 cars, but their bathroom was junk. So the whole customer experience needs to be dealt with. One person, when I posted that, said, I judge a dealership by the quality of the coffee. And I think that's a really telling. If it's just a pump with, powdered cream, not that impressive. This place has K cups, so you could have your choice of type of coffee, but still plastic cups versus mugs because people are on the go, I guess. So anyway, think that mindset through. What does it take? And there's an article that we can include in the show notes for that. So that's the second tip. And
And
go
and
ahead.
I'll add to that, which I saw a couple of your posts, Kent, and so that's funny you give context to that. Uh, I would say for retail, or excuse me, restaurants, that's how some folks I've learned evaluate how good the restaurant, the food, the experience will be is just by going to the bathroom. If you use the bathroom to wash your hands from when you get there and you see dust and things all array, more than likely you might not have a good experience. So I learned that earlier in my days when I used to work at those sort of things and consult for those businesses.
You nailed it. So that's one thing. And then, so that's the second tip. The third is first mover advantage. So
Ooh,
this
yeah.
isn't what you think, like Zig Ziglar talks about, the first to market has a huge advantage. That's like a business strategy to be first to market. Mine is first mover advantage in responsiveness. So this goes back to the first class mindset, but from a sales
Yeah.
and marketing standpoint. So what that means is if you think about your experience, if you've ever hired a plumber, a roofer, an electrician, who's the person you hired? It's the first that responded to your phone calls and your emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
first mover advantage gives you the business that others can't get. And the corollary to that, and there's an article about this, is that we can add, is the idea that impact diminishes over time. So back to the
Mm,
first class mindset. It's exponentially harder to delight somebody if you, for every second or minute or hour you delay. If you can hit somebody right away and make an impact quickly, it's a lot more affordable and has a much more lasting impact. The examples I've given in past articles include doing a mid-stay survey at a hotel in Singapore when I was doing a workshop there. And they added a pillow top to my mattress within hours of me sending in the survey so that my second and final night of sleep was exponentially better. If they
Yeah.
had told me that they sent me, like most hotels send you a post-stay survey, what can we do better next time? I'm not coming back to Singapore. I'd love to, but I haven't been back. And they'd say, next time we'll give you a pillow top. Great, bravo. But that didn't change my stay. So
Mm.
impact is like an avalanche survival rate. It's greatest up at the very top. That the first seconds are critical. So first mover advantage is more than just a business strategy. It's a customer service and a sales strategy.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's
Yeah,
keep let's keep
yeah,
it going.
let's do it. All right. So these two tie in together, but I'll separate them for clarity. The first is one of my greatest mistakes in running my agency for 22 years was the core following Lee Iacocca's advice and hiring great people and getting out of the way. That
Mm.
sounds perfect. It sounds great. And if you get the right people with the right amount of balance of understanding what you're trying to do and having the wherewithal to figure out the rest, then you can get out of the way. The problem is I got out of the way, and the talented, smart people I hired, because of our culture or whatever the issues were afraid to come to me to tell me they were failing. So they
Mm.
would quit before they failed, or they would fail, then they quit. Either way, I couldn't fix it. So my corollary to hire great people and get out of the way is set goals, set metrics, and have check-ins. But it's really this piece of advice is number 4 is inspect, do not expect. And I think we've talked about this before in the past is
Yes,
I
we have.
expected, because I hired smart people and paid them more than market, that I could get out of the way. And I'm the antithesis of a micromanager to a fault. And I didn't have those check-ins, or the check-ins weren't designed to really get the surface the issues. So people would flail, fail,
Mm.
and quit. And so what I started to do later, too late in the game for many people and some damage that was done, is inspect and not expect. So setting up those expectations, setting up the goals, setting up the metrics, having the regular check-ins where we would hold each other accountable for getting there, where it wasn't me blaming them unless they weren't going to tell me what was wrong. It's us working together to free up any roadblocks, any stucks. So
Mm.
inspect, do not expect. That is not micromanagement. That is check-ins that are preset and agreed upon.
Yeah,
You know the end goal. Are there any obstacles I can help move out of your way?
absolutely. No, I would say for those listening out there that don't have employees yet, at some point, or subcontractors at some point, you will need to delegate. And hiring great people, smarter people is important. But this comes back to when some folks, when they start their business, they're like, man, why is it every day I got to do something? Or maybe you don't realize it's every day you got to do something. And that's the hard part of where this is not a 9 to 5. You clock in, clock out. It is a constant everyday evaluation that you don't get vacation or time off from, which it should be you working smarter, not harder. This is not what you see in the movies or social media where you just show a picture, you take a couple of pictures, you do a couple of things here. Man, that's right there. That's bars, Kent. So yeah, and I learned that in the Marine Corps though too. You inspect what you expect, but I
Yeah,
think you said to a fault. I do want to say that sometimes, and this is just me talking, but um, someone said to me once, you have to earn the right not to be micromanaged.
mm.
And you can set goals and do the expectations, but you have to earn the right to where we can make sure that everything is aligned before I'll allow you to do it. And it took me a while to get there, but that's what I took away from some of my things where I'm like, well, how come you keep messing up?
Yeah, yeah, that's totally right. The final tip is to measure what matters. This sounds completely logical, but it's easier said than done. Meaning,
Mm.
I'll add a corollary to that, because one of the other bonus tips I was going to give is success can be deadly, because if you're making the kind of money you've always wanted to make or more, you tend not to look under the hood and figure out if there's anything that's going to get in the way of future
Mm.
earnings, which is what I did at Anvil. Back 12 years ago, I made the most money of Anvil's revenue and profit in history, and I had no reason to look under the hood except for one critical issue. I was miserable. I did not
Mm.
lost touch with my team, with my clients, with my discipline, with my passion, and we just happened to be making great money as a culmination of the previous 10 years of momentum. So I was measuring profit and giving it too much weight. not the how did we get there, at what expense to the team or the clients. So once I looked under the hood, I realized I wasn't in a Ferrari going 100 miles an hour down the freeway, billowing hair in the breeze. I was in a 1984 Ford Escort with baling wire and hamsters under the hood. And they were running
Still
really
doing 100
hard.
miles an hour.
Well, I realized I was going 25. You know what I mean? So, again, the challenge was I felt the feedback I was getting, how it felt, the money in the bank was great, but how I was getting there was burning people out. Clients
Mm,
were unhappy. That was coming at expense. Wasn't measuring the right things: employee satisfaction, client satisfaction, retention. In fact, some of those still would have showed indicators. I had to dig deeper and peel that onion to figure out what I really should have been. Other leading and lagging indicators, like a net promoter score, is a great leading indicator of where you're going to be going. And I started doing that every year and found some, that's when I started to see some cracks, but really it was how I felt. That should have been follow your gut, right? That should have been the
mm.
indicator that something wasn't quite right. And I was unhappy. So I wrote the credo, and you can read about that, the Jerry Maguire experience. But that's in a nutshell. I think that's what those are 5 plus 1 or 2 extra corollaries of the top tips that I could give, extol after 25 plus years of entrepreneurship, running my
Mm.
own show for 22 years, that I've learned. A smart person learns from the mistakes, a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. These tips are to help others, listeners, not make the same mistakes I did.
Whew, man, diamonds. Where can they find you at? If they want to learn more, or maybe even sit down with you and talk a little bit more about your experiences?
Yeah. So best place, you can follow me on the Twitter at Kent J. Lewis, and then definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Just at Kent Lewis Dexia is easy find. It's number 1, or Kent Lewis Portland. Easy to find. And I look forward to connecting and staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Those were bars. Thank you for that, Kent. I think it's always interesting because we have these different topics we can choose from, but you still give it from a marketing lens and standpoint from an agency. But I love some of those core things, at least for me, is just being a good leader. Um, that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother 20 minutes. But I want to say thank you because I appreciate your vulnerability and being transparent about this, because not everybody wants to share and talk about what has worked well, worked or not has worked well. Again, the storytelling piece is important. And we're going to have the link to some of those articles, or just maybe that one article that you shared, Ken. So make sure you don't forget to send it to me.
Yep. It's in the chat. Should be good.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, y'all. Well, you heard it first here at Let's Talk Marketing with End Up. Kent Lewis, the PDX Godfather of Marketing, with me here. If you haven't already, download, subscribe to the show. Also, on whichever platform you're on, please rate, review it. So hit the 5 stars or 4 stars. If you didn't earn your 4 or 5 stars, then tell me, how can we make it better? You can reach out to me at info@nwebsterllc.com. But if we earned your 4 and 5 stars, please tell us why. And I want to say thank you in advance. I appreciate you. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn as well. But I will give you all those links down at the bottom of the show notes. So until next time, I wish you nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed.